Namaskar, a warm welcome to World News, an Indian perspective on All India Radio. This is Napanita Adhikari bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. India signs contracts for procurement of indigenously developed 70 basic trainer aircraft and 3 cadet training ships costing 9,900 crore rupees. Indian Navy successfully tests medium-range surface-to-air missile from INS Visakhapatnam. Prime Minister Narendra Modi calls upon private sector to increase investment in various sectors for India's progress. Sri Lankan President says crisis-hit nation received assurance from China on debt restructuring, clearing way of IMF bailout. 16 people killed and over 100 injured in an explosion in a multi-story building in Bangladesh. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin makes unannounced visit to Iraq. United Nations says Turkey earthquake damage estimated to exceed $100 billion. And in Women's Premier League, match between Delhi Capitals and UP Warriors underway at Navi Mumbai. The Government of India has signed the contracts with Hindustan Aeronautics Limited and Larsen & Toubro Limited for procurement of 70 HTT-40 basic trainer aircraft and 3 cadet training ships. The contract was signed in the presence of Defence Minister Rajnath Singh in New Delhi on Tuesday. Recently, the government had approved the procurement of 70 HTT-40 trainer aircraft from HAL at a cost of over 6,800 crore rupees. The government had also signed a contract with L&T for acquisition of 3 cadet training ships worth more than 3,100 crore rupees. HTT-40 trainer aircraft will meet the shortage of basic trainer aircraft of the Indian Air Force for training of newly inducted pilots. The aircraft will be supplied over a period of 6 years. Indian Navy has successfully undertaken medium-range surface-to-air missile firing from INS Visakhapatnam, validating capability to engage anti-ship missiles. The medium-range surface-to-air missile was jointly developed by Defence Research and Development Organization (DRDO) and Israeli Aerospace Industries at Bharat Dynamics Limited. In a tweet, the Indian Navy said it reflects its commitment to self-reliant India. The first ever joint military exercise between the Indian and French Army, Fringex 23, began at Pangure Military Station at Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala on Tuesday. The exercise is focused on humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. The joint exercise will further strengthen defence cooperation with France, which is a key aspect of the overall Indo-France strategic partnership. We have a report.
The commander of the Pangon military base inaugurated the joint military exercise today. The maiden joint military exercise that began today will continue till tomorrow. It is for the first time that French and Indian Army are engaging in this format with each contingent comprising a company group. The exercise is aimed at enhancing interoperability, coordination and cooperation between both forces at tactical level. The exercise is unique in its concept and participation with largest ever contingent being fielded by the Thiruvananthapuram-based Indian Army troops and the French 6th Light Armoured Brigade. The theme of the exercise is based on humanitarian assistance and disaster relief operations in a contested environment. Mayusha for AR News from Thiruvananthapuram.
India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh met an American Jewish Committee delegation led by Ted Deutsch in New Delhi on Tuesday. The Defence Ministry said both the sides discussed areas of common interest such as enhanced defence cooperation and defence industrial cooperation. Mr. Singh said India offers significant advantages in terms of land cost, skilled human capital, a vibrant startup ecosystem and a huge domestic defence market. The first meeting of the India Central Asia Joint Working Group on Afghanistan was held in New Delhi on Tuesday. The meeting was attended by the special envoys and senior officials of India, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyz Republic, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan. During the meeting, discussions were held on the current situation in Afghanistan, including the political, security and the humanitarian situation. While emphasizing the respect for sovereignty, unity, territorial integrity and non-interference in its internal affairs, all the participants has reiterated their support for a peaceful, secure and stable Afghanistan. Participants also discussed regional threats of terrorism, extremism, radicalization and drug trafficking, and also deliberated on the possibilities to coordinate efforts to counter these threats. They emphasized that the territory of Afghanistan should not be used for sheltering, training, planning or financing any terrorist acts. They also emphasized on the importance of formation of a truly inclusive and representative political structure that respects the rights of all Afghan people. The sides took note of the current humanitarian situation and agreed to continue to provide humanitarian assistance to the Afghan people. In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a news commentary on outcomes of Quad Foreign Ministers meeting.
The External Affairs Minister of India and the Foreign Ministers of Australia, Japan, along with the Secretary of State of the United States of America, met in New Delhi for the Quad Foreign Ministers meeting. The meeting reaffirmed the Quad's steadfast commitment to supporting a free and open Indo-Pacific which is inclusive and resilient. The Quad foreign ministers strongly support the principles of freedom, rule of law and sovereignty and territorial integrity. They called for peaceful settlement of disputes without resorting to threat or use of force and freedom of navigation and overflight. The Quad foreign ministers were opposed to any unilateral attempt to change the status quo, which is essential to peace, stability and prosperity of the Indo-Pacific region and beyond. They reiterated their conviction that the Quad, acting as a force for regional and global good, will be guided by the priorities of the Indo-Pacific region through its positive and constructive agenda. Through the Quad, they sought to support the region through practical cooperation on contemporary challenges such as health security, climate change and the clean energy transition and critical and emerging technologies. Key issues like infrastructure and connectivity, addressing the debt crisis through sustainable, transparent and fair lending and financing practices figured in their talks. The Quad foreign ministers underlined the need for cooperation in space technology, cybersecurity, humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, maritime security and counter-terrorism. The leaders reaffirmed their consistent and unwavering support for ASEAN centrality and unity and said they would be guided in their work by ASEAN's principles and priorities. They welcomed Indonesia's 2023 ASEAN chairmanship and support to its chair theme ASEAN Matters, epicentrum of growth. They identified tangible areas for the Quad to support the work of ASEAN. The Quad foreign ministers maintained that they are committed to supporting Pacific Island countries in line with the objectives of the Pacific Islands Forum's 2050 strategy for the Blue Pacific continent, guided by Pacific priorities of climate change, resilient infrastructure and maritime security. The Quad foreign ministers supported regional institutions in the Pacific. They called for strengthening their cooperation with the Indian Ocean Rim Association IORA to address the region's most pressing and important challenges. India's leadership in finalizing the IORA outlook on the Indo-Pacific was appreciated. The Quad foreign ministers noted the progress made under the Quad Humanitarian Assistance and Disaster Relief Partnership for the Indo-Pacific. They welcomed the outcomes of the first HADR tabletop exercise and biannual meeting held in India in December 2022. The participating ministers called for finalization of the partnership's standard operating procedures SOP for an effective and coordinated response mechanism. The Quad foreign ministers concurred that the rules-based international order is anchored in international law, including the UN Charter and the principles of sovereignty, political independence and territorial integrity of all states. The Quad foreign ministers said they would work together to address attempts to unilaterally subvert the UN and international system in consultation with their partners and through multilateral and international platforms. The four foreign ministers reiterated their unwavering support for the UN Charter, including its 3 pillars. They expressed their commitment to strengthen the UN and international system through a comprehensive reform agenda. These include expansion in permanent and non-permanent seats of the UN Security Council. They committed to remain active and constructive engagement in the intergovernmental negotiations process on Security Council reforms with an overall objective of making the the UN Security Council more effective, representative and credible.
The second meeting of Global Partnership for Financial Inclusion under India's G20 presidency concluded today in Hyderabad. The two-day meeting was led by GPFI co-chair and G20 India presidency and saw participation from Ministry of Finance and Central Bank representatives from G20 and non-G20 countries and in international organizations. During the plenary, the GPFI members discussed and agreed on the way forward for important deliverables for the year, including those on digital financial inclusion, SME finance. A symposium on digital innovations in payments and remittances was also organized on the sidelines of the Global Partnership for Financial Inclusion meeting for both G20 and non-G20 countries. The symposium hosted a panel discussion on harnessing digital innovations in payment systems for financial inclusion, resilience, productivity gains, and inclusive growth. This is All India Radio giving you the world news. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi on Tuesday called upon the private sector to increase their investment just like the government so that the country gets maximum benefit from it. He was addressing a post-budget webinar on enhancing efficiency on the financial services for creating growth opportunities. Touching upon the massive increase in the capital expenditure outlay in the budget to the tune of 10 lakh crore rupees and dynamism induced by PM Gati Shakti Master Plan, he emphasized the need to support the private sector that is working for the progress of the different geographical areas and economic sectors.
पीएम गति शक्ति की वजह से प्रोजेक्ट की प्लानिंग और उसे लागू करने में अभूतपूर्व तेजी आ गई है। हमें अलग अलग ज्योग्राफिकल एरियाज और इकोनॉमिक सेक्टर्स के प्रगति के लिए काम करने वाले प्राइवेट सेक्टर को भी ज्यादा से ज्यादा सपोर्ट करना होगा। मैं आज देश के प्राइवेट सेक्टर से भी आह्वान करूंगा कि सरकार की तरह ही वो भी अपना इन्वेस्टमेंट बढ़ाएं ताकि देश को इसका ज्यादा से ज्यादा लाभ हो।
The Indian Prime Minister said vocal for local is not a matter of choice but a national responsibility along with the vision of self-reliance. He said that vocal for local is bigger than just buying products from the Indian cottage industry, saying there is a need to identify the areas where one can save money by building capacity in India itself. In this direction, Mr. Modi gave examples of higher education and edible oil on which a lot of money is spent.
हायर एजुकेशन के नाम पर हर साल देश का हजारों करोड़ रुपए बाहर जाता है। क्या इसे भारत में ही एजुकेशन सेक्टर में निवेश करके कम नहीं किया जा सकता? एडिबल ऑयल मंगाने के लिए भी हम हजारों करोड़ रुपए बाहर भेजते हैं। क्या हम इस क्षेत्र में आत्मनिर्भर नहीं बन सकते हैं? ऐसे सभी सवालों का उत्तर आप जैसे अनुभवी फाइनेंशियल वर्ल्ड के लोग सटीक उत्तर दे सकते हैं, रास्ता सुझा सकते हैं।
Mr. Modi asserted that today India is being called the bright spot of the global economy. The Prime Minister emphasized that as today's India is moving with new capabilities, the responsibility of those in the financial world of India has increased. The Prime Minister noted that platforms developed by India are becoming models for the world, and RuPay and UPI are not just a low-cost and highly secure technology, but it is India's identity in the world. Sri Lanka President Ranil Wickremesinghe today told the Parliament that a letter of intent has been sent to the International Monetary Fund to seek approval from the board for a $2.9 billion bailout. He added that Sri Lanka received the letter from China yesterday, giving assurances to support Sri Lanka's debt restructuring. Our Colombo correspondent has the details.
The financing assurances from China come after over 45 days since India had given the financing assurances to the IMF. India was the first creditor nation to have extended such assurances, which was a prerequisite for the IMF package. Paris Club had extended similar assurances last month. The bailout is likely to help Sri Lanka in restoring macroeconomic stability and achieve debt sustainability in the long run. The 48-month program will be subject to approval by the IMF board, which will consider the package on 20th of March. The program was finalized last September through a staff-level agreement. Sri Lanka has been consistently making efforts to secure the loan through several non-popular measures such as raising taxes, cutting energy subsidies, and a tight monetary policy. For World News, this is Ahmed Moin Farooqi from Colombo.
In Bangladesh, at least 16 people were killed and over 100 others were injured in an explosion in a 7-story building located at a crowded market near BRTC bus counter in the Gulistan area of Dhaka. 2 buildings adjacent to the building where the explosion took place were also damaged. The power supply in the area has been cut off and the movement of vehicles has also been restricted. Superintendent of the Dhaka Medical College Hospital, Brigadier, said the injured have been admitted to nearby hospital. Firefighters are taking part in the rescue operation. The cause of the explosion is still not known. Talking to media, Dhaka Metropolitan Police Commissioner Khandekar Golam Farooq said investigation is underway to determine the cause of the explosion. The blast come close on the heels of another explosion that occurred in the science lab area of Old Dhaka on Sunday. According to the police, the incident was caused by a cylinder blast in the building. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin reached Iraq on Tuesday on an unannounced visit, less than 2 weeks before the 20th anniversary of the U.S.-led invasion that toppled Saddam Hussein. In a tweet after landing in Baghdad, the U.S. Defense Secretary said his visit aims to reaffirm the U.S.-Iraq strategic partnership as they move toward a more secure, stable and sovereign Iraq. His visit comes ahead of the 20th March anniversary of the ground invasion by the United States, which ushered in 2 decades of bloodshed that Iraq is only now beginning to exit. In the run-up, Iraq has hosted a raft of foreign officials including UN Chief Antonio Guterres and the Iranian, Russian and Saudi foreign ministers. Since US-led coalition troops ousted Saddam's Sunni Arab-dominated regime, Iraq's Shiite majority has led Iraq under a confessional power-sharing system. Successive governments have forged close ties with Iraq's Shiite-led neighbor Iran, while Iraq also maintains relations with the United States in a delicate balancing act. Before reaching Iraq, the U.S. Defense Secretary held talks in neighboring Jordan with King Abdullah II, a staunch U.S. ally in the region. Pentagon, in a statement, said Secretary Austin shared his concerns on a range of shared challenges, including maintaining focus on security and stability in Iraq and countering other destabilizing activities in the region. Turkey, often divided opposition parties have come together to choose a single candidate to face President Recep Tayyip Erdogan in May's election. Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu leads the main secular opposition party, the Republican People's Party. Polls suggest a tight race in a country highly polarized after 2 decades of President Erdogan's authoritarian rule. Economic crisis and errors during last month's earthquake may make him more vulnerable than in previous elections. A huge crowd of supporters cheered Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu, a former civil servant, as he was chosen by a 6-party opposition alliance. He is also known as Gandhi Kemal or Turkey's Gandhi for his resemblance to father of the nation of India, Mahatma Gandhi. The quiet-spoken 74-year-old Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu offers a radically different vision in both substance and style to the fiery, charismatic Mr. Erdogan's. He promised his supporters that he would govern Turkey through consensus and consultation. The United Nations on Tuesday said damage from catastrophic earthquake that struck Turkey and Syria last month has been estimated at over $100 billion of Turkey alone. The United Nations Development Programme Turkey resident representative Luisa Vinton further explained that recovery costs are yet to be added to that. Ms. Vinton was talking to reporters virtually from Gaziantep in Turkey. The 7.8 magnitude quake, which struck Turkey and Syria in early February claimed over 50,000 lives. UN officials labeled the catastrophe as one of the worst events in 100 years in that region. Ms. Winton said preliminary, it is clear from the calculations being done to date that the damage figure presented by the government and supported by 3 international partners, including UNDP, the World Bank, and the European Union, will be in excess of $100 billion. She said once completed, this estimate will be the basis for a recovery and reconstruction donor conference in Brussels next week. She said recovery costs, including efforts to build improved and more environmentally sustainable infrastructure, will exceed that amount. In France, trade unions stepped up their fight against President Emmanuel Macron over controversial pension reform on Tuesday. As most trains came to a halt, fuel deliveries were disrupted and schools shut on the 6th day of nationwide strikes. The reform would push back the retirement age for millions in the country. Local media termed it a critical time for the government, which is hoping the reform can be adopted by Parliament by the end of March. To increase pressure on lawmakers not to raise the pension age by 2 years to 64, unions said there would be rolling strikes this time, which could go on for days, including at oil refineries and railways. The head of the FO union told local media they will continue until the reform is withdrawn. Garbage collectors and truck drivers joined the strike in a sign the protests were spreading to more sectors. Like in previous strikes, power production was reduced, fuel deliveries were blocked from all French refineries, and refining was disrupted while many teachers walked off the job. So far, the bill is proceeding through Parliament. While President Macron's camp does not have an absolute majority in the Parliament, it can count on the support of at least part of the less Republican party. Japan on Tuesday was forced to blow up its new rocket during a failed launch, in a setback to country's efforts to crack a market led by Elon Musk's SpaceX. Its space agency had to send a self-destruct command to the H-3 rocket when its second stage engine failed minutes after liftoff. Observers say it is a significant step back for Japan's Aerospace Exploration Agency. The government called the test failure extremely regrettable. The H-3 rocket is the first medium-lift rocket designed by Japan in 3 decades. A delegation of 200 Buddhist monks from South Korea on Tuesday reached Kushinagar district of Uttar Pradesh from Bodh Gaya in Bihar on foot, tracing the Lord Buddha's steps and life journey in India. The walking pilgrimage marked 50 years of diplomatic relations between India and South Korea and aims to increase friendship and collaboration between the two countries. Senior officials, public representatives, and local people warmly welcomed the delegation. The monks from South Korea will walk over 1,100 kilometers over a period of 43 days, covering Buddhist holy sites in India and Nepal as part of their pilgrimage. India on Tuesday conferred the National Photography Awards in various categories upon 13 photographers, including senior photojournalist Shipra Das at a function in New Delhi. Minister of State for Information and Broadcasting, Dr. L. Murugan, today gave away the awards in presence of Secretary Information and Broadcasting, Apurva Chandra. Addressing the gathering after giving away the awards, Minister of State Dr. L. Murugan said that India is rising under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and it is fastest growing major economy in the world. He added that G20 meetings are being held under India's presidency across the country and its rich culture heritage is reaching the world.
We are now fastest growing major economy in the world. We are hosting the G20 meeting across the country. India proudly celebrates her glorious past and her cultural ethos. Our rich cultural heritage is unique in the world. Our brilliant photographers can play an important role taking this beauty to the world and make others aware of our great cultural capital.
On the occasion, while complimenting the awardees, Secretary Information and Broadcasting Apurva Chandra suggested to the Photo Division to have some more awards on government's flagship scheme like Drinking Water Scheme, where photographers can display their skill. President of India Draupadi Murmu on Tuesday said that women are playing leading and significant roles in all spheres and they are setting unprecedented records. In her message on the eve of International Women's Day, President Murmu said that the women are awakened and are holding leadership positions in many areas. Extending her wishes to all fellow citizens, especially women, the President said that efforts are still required for achieving gender equality and women empowerment. The Indian President said that the nation is committed to empowering our daughters through quality education so that they can realize their full potential. The celebration for Holi, the festival of colors, has begun in India. The festival will be celebrated across the country on Wednesday. In Uttar Pradesh's Braj region, Holi is celebrated with religious fervor. Different types of Holi, including Latmar Holi, Phoolon ki Holi, Laddumar Holi, is part of the month-long Holi celebration in Mathura Vrindavan, which starts from Vasant Panchami itself. India's President Draupadi Murmu and Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar have greeted fellow citizens and Indians living abroad on the eve of Holi. In her message, President Murmu said, the festival of Holi symbolizes the vibrant colors and spirit of tolerance in diverse society of the country. The President called upon people to work together for the progress and prosperity of the society and nation. In his message today, Mr. Dhankar extended his warm greetings and good wishes to all Indians on the joyous occasion of Holi. He urged the people to recommit themselves towards strengthening their bonds of brotherhood and reconnect with Mother Nature. In Women's Premier League, the match between Delhi Capitals and UP Warriors is underway at Dr. D.Y. Patil Sports Academy in Navi Mumbai. Chasing a target of 212 runs set by Delhi Capitals, UP Warriors were 137 for 7 in 18 overs when reports last came in. Earlier put into bat, Delhi Capitals posted 211 for 4 in stipulated 20 overs. Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Guardian writes, China Foreign Minister warns of potential for conflict with US and hails Russia ties. The Washington Post reports Biden to unveil plan averting Medicare funding crisis, challenging GOP. The New York Times writes debt default would cripple US economy, new analysis warn. The Globe and Mail reports Kiev to send more troops in Bakhmut, seeing chance to break long Russian siege. The Financial Times writes South Africa economy hit harder than expected after power cuts. South China Morning Post says Israeli attack paralyzes Syria's Aleppo airport, disrupts earthquake aid deliveries. A quick look at the headlines once again. India signs contracts for procurement of indigenously developed 70 basic trainer aircraft and 3 cadet training ships costing 9,900 crore rupees. Indian Navy successfully tests medium-range surface-to-air missile from INS Vishakhapatnam. Prime Minister Narendra Modi calls upon private sector to increase investment in various sectors for India's progress. Sri Lankan President says crisis-hit nation received assurance from China on debt restructuring, clearing way for IMF bailout. 16 people killed and over 100 injured in an explosion in a multi-story building in Bangladesh. And in Women's Premier League, match between Delhi Capitals and UP Warriors underway at Navi Mumbai. And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Senegal. And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.